Welcome back, Thrivers, to another episode of the Thriving Equine Professional. We are so excited to have you back here today to have a fun conversation with one of my dear friends, whom, again, as I always tell these connection stories, Megan, I think that you and I kind of got stuck together. I don't know. It's probably been almost 10 years ago, really. So, I don't know. What was it, 2015 or 16?
2016, yep.
2016. So today's guest is no stranger to my craziness, and she has agreed to come on and share a little bit of her story and her advice for young people who are pursuing or interested in careers in this crazy equine industry. So, with no further ado, Miss Megan Smith, and I've already told her that I'll try not to call her Megan Lapp, but Megan Lapp Smith. So for some of our listeners, they'll know you that way. But from now on, I promise it's Megan Smith. So, Megan, welcome to the Thriving Equine Professional.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I can't
I,
believe
I'm
it's been almost 10 years. That's crazy that 2016 was almost that long ago, but we
Yes,
won't talk
yeah.
about
Well,
that.
we'll just say 8. We'll say 8, and it's not like we're decades in or anything like that.
And we didn't
So
get any older over those 8 years either.
neither one of us have gotten any older. We've only gotten wiser. We've gotten wiser. So we need to share some of that wisdom. And I always, remind our guests that really we are speaking to ourselves, 10 or 15, or for some of us like me, 20 years ago. And that is our passion. And I know that you and I have had many conversations about this. And while we have been in situations where we've worked together, we are now in situations where we're in very different roles. But I think that for both of us, it is really truly about sharing all that we didn't know and encouraging people to explore these careers and connect with people and really start to ask more questions and say, wow, I can work in the equine industry. If I love horses, I don't have to just be a trainer. I don't have to be a veterinarian. I can go into the industry and find all these cool roles. I think one of the things for me, Meg, that stands out about you is I think you were kind of a social media expert before social media was cool. I'll look back and say that when I first met you, you had this passion for really bringing the equine industry into a social media presence. So if we go back to the beginning, you are a New Jersey native and a graduate of Delaware Valley College, right? As we call Del Val. So talk to us a little bit about that period, right? Like, let's get launched into your career. You're at Del Val. What was your degree and what was your horse involvement?
So I was a biology major, and it's funny you say, the equine careers that exist because I was originally supposed to be an equine studies major, and I decided about 3 weeks before starting that I wanted to switch to biology. And talking with a veterinarian that I was friends with, he said, you should really focus on biology. That way, if you decide not to go to vet school, it opens up more opportunities. So I had called and I had to speak to my advisor at Delaware Valley, and they said, and I quote, "So if you don't go to vet school, you don't want to just be like a barn manager or something?" And I was like, "No, honestly, I don't want to be a barn manager, but thank you." So, going into college, I thought it was pretty much like vet school or nothing to involve horses. So my major was biology, and my intention was to go to vet school. I always wanted to take a year off between vet school and college and vet school just as a break. And I also needed small animal experience for my vet school application. So that's what led me into the technician space. I unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, worked with a hospital, and the veterinarians were pretty unhappy with their life. There were a couple that were happy, but the overall feeling was just not really that excited about their life. And I thought to myself, why do I want to go to vet school and put myself in even more debt to be unhappy when I have enough student loans just from undergrad? So, what else is there? Which is kind of how my career started. And, looking back, and I've said to you, I wish this podcast existed when I was in my, early career, because it would have been really great to know what's out there. But, luckily for the new generation, we've kind of paved the way for them. So,
Yes. Well, and that's really interesting because we have so many listeners, Meg, that have that same decision because we spend so much of our youth saying, "Oh, I want to be a veterinarian." So many young equine enthusiasts, what I call the horse crazy girls that we are, we want to be a veterinarian. That's the option that's shown to us. So you did. Now, looking back at this point in your career, can you even imagine yourself as a veterinarian? Is that something that you have any regrets about? Is that something that you think you could have, should have? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think about it often. I shouldn't say often. I thought about it often, and I think I would have been a great veterinarian and I absolutely would have loved it. Am I unhappy that that is not my life? No, because I think, the things I've experienced, the people I've met, what I've gotten to do, how I've gotten to help the equine industry in a different way and still try to has been great. So, I'm really happy with how my career has turned out and where it will go. Who knows? I never say no to an opportunity, so it'll be fun to see where I head next. But I'm really happy with how it worked out, and I don't regret my decision not to go to vet school at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also think it's really interesting that you chose biology as a major and you made that conscious decision from an equine studies major to biology. Now, again, we talk back and forth on some of these things. If you were talking to your college self today, would it still be, given your career trajectory and where you are now, as really the director of sales for a company in the US? And so would you have said biology was the right major, equine studies would have maybe been better, a business degree? Is there anything that you would say to your college self that would have changed your mind?
Yeah, I would have at least minored in business. I think that coming into the pharmaceutical industry, the area I struggled with the most was the business side because I had no experience there. So it was very much, learn as I go, self-taught, taught by, my managers and my mentors. So that would probably be something that if I could go back in time, I would definitely major in biology again, because I think, it was a great place to start. I love science. You can't go wrong, and you're not pigeonholing yourself into an industry. So I would definitely major in biology, but I would definitely add in a business minor or dual major, however I felt
Yeah.
fit at that time.
Awesome. Such great advice. And so that's always a question that I want our listeners to hear. Now, while you were in college, were also on the equestrian team. Is that correct? So
Yep.
I always like to give a shout out. You were on an intercollegiate show team. Did you
Yep.
ride English only? I'm
Yes.
assuming being at Del Val. Right.
Yep.
As I ran off to Kentucky and, from Maryland, was an English girl and got there and very quickly became not only just English, but English and Western, and then
Yeah.
more Western than English. So
Right.
yeah, those experiences are rich and I like to share those. And so as our younger listeners are looking at schools and exploring their opportunities, I think that some of those extracurricular activities really make a huge difference in your ability to, grow and learn and connect with other people and those kinds of things. And so I think that, IHSA teams, women's equestrian teams, whatever that looks like, those are important extracurriculars.
Yeah, absolutely. I still talk to my coach today and, my friends from the team. And it was also nice to have that equine part in my college career, despite not majoring in, equine science or equine studies. So.
Right. Awesome. And so after college, let's talk about kind of your early journey because you must have liked academia well enough to then move on to centenary college, right? And so talk to us about that experience and how that became your first role, your first job as you left your undergraduate program.
Yeah, so I was a small animal technician, like I said, for about 2.5 years. And, that didn't end well. And the position, it's where I learned that the position may not feel like a great experience when you're in it, but you can always take skills away from that will help you in the future. So whether it's dealing with, unhappy coworkers or difficult people, there's something positive you can take away from that. So I took a little bit of a break between that and my time at Centenary, where I worked as a corporate recruiter. And I learned very quickly that that was not the role for me, but it was nice to, take a little break. But it also helped me realize what was important to me, and that was horses, and that was the veterinary industry. So I knew I needed to involve that in my career in some way, shape, and form moving forward. And then I had known Dr. Fragaro, who was the vet at Centenary at the time. He was my veterinarian. And he said to me the one day, he was like, "What are you doing with your life?" And I was like, I'm working for a corporate recruiter, and it is what it is. So he was having the position open. So I applied, and, that's kind of how it started. And I always say if I win the lottery, I will go back to being an equine veterinary technician because it was my absolute favorite position. I loved it. But unfortunately, with making that your sole income, it's not always the easiest, to afford the lifestyle you want. So I, unfortunately, living in the state of New Jersey, realized that I needed to make a little bit more money. But my experience there and with Centenary was great. I really liked the teaching aspect. I got to teach a couple courses. I got to manage a team of work study students. So, all of these things really led me to realize what I liked and what I wanted in my career. And, I liked the education. I obviously love the horses, the veterinary medicine, and then teaching and managing. So
That's really great advice. Now, I want to go back to the veterinary assistant, veterinary technician, because it is changing. I'll bet slowly, but for those out there that really have an interest, because that's not, and I don't like to use the word easy, but that's an opportunity that wherever you are, if you are in middle school, you're in high school, you're in college, you're in an early career, you're doing something like corporate recruiting and you don't love it, you can go and volunteer as a veterinary assistant, technician, do a short externship. You can fit that into almost any schedule because equine veterinarians will have you and teach you. And that is a career that's really improving on the pay. Like that
absolutely.
pay scale, there's a lot of work being done, specific to us on the equine side by the AAEVT. Always love to give them a shout out. And they are so tremendously important. And so, veterinary assistant, veterinary technician, I just love to hear you say how passionate you still are about that. And there are career opportunities out there. And so that's another one, right? Like we weren't even here to talk about veterinary technicians, but that's another one, folks, that, look into it and really start to understand what's going on in the industry today and how the opportunities are really growing and evolving. And we're really putting, the right emphasis on those skills that you have as a vet assistant or technician.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see things improving. And of course, as we were talking, that was over 8 years ago. I was a technician, and I'm happy things have changed. And I think that the industry is starting to see the value in a technician. And a good technician is just as good as a good veterinarian. If you don't have good help, then you can't perform as efficiently or as good as you would have. So they're starting to see that, and there's a lot of work being done. And I'm excited for that. And maybe next time we talk, I'll be back to being a technician. You never know.
Right. And so the next step in your career, how did this come about? You were, like at a university, you're at Centenary, you are doing veterinary assistant and teaching. You clearly loved that. And then you took a step into industry, which is then where you and I met. So we met at Zoetis. And how did that come about? And what were the skills that you used to come into that and the experience that you had?
Yeah, so the veterinarian I worked for, he was starting to transition. He had a private practice as well as being a surgeon for another practice in the area. He was starting to near his end at Centenary, which had been, a 10-year run, and just solely focus on his practice. So we worked so well together that I knew it would be a huge change for me to work for another veterinarian. Not that another veterinarian wasn't great, but being in that same role with a new doctor just wasn't what I was looking for. So I, started to, and he's always been a great mentor to me. We started talking about my options. Obviously, he offered me a job with him to move to his practice, but I just felt like I was ready to try something new. And that's when I started thinking about industry positions. And I thought, oh, nutrition would be really cool because you get to see the horse, improve, which obviously I like that. And, there's also the pharmaceutical side. So I kind of started leaning more towards the pharmaceutical side. And then, of course, I had to narrow it down between the companies that are available. And it just so happened that the Zoetis position was opening up just at this time. And, I had wanted to work for Zoetis because the rep at the time, she was always so informative. Zoetis always did the right thing. They had great products. And, of the experiences I had with the representatives of different companies, Zoetis always stood out to me. So, that's kind of what led me to the role with Zoetis.
Awesome. So you proceeded then to spend almost 7 years working as an equine specialist for Zoetis. Had some really cool opportunities. One, I want to give a shout out because at the beginning, Meg, I talked about your passion for social media. And I think one of the things you did that you took on in addition to your full-time job within that first year or two was your role with the Essex horse trials. So talk a little bit about that, how it came up, those special projects. What's the impact in your early career, and what's your advice for others when, how did you get that opportunity and why?
So I got that opportunity because I had an Instagram famous corgi, and she was the best dog. We won't talk about her because I'll cry. But
Right.
I was able to grow a corgi to about, at her max was 42,000 followers. So I had been working with Essex Horse Trials through one of my customers at Zoetis. They do a sponsorship running us as one of their title sponsors every year. And so they were starting to talk about social media and, how do we grow the presence? And one of the board members said, oh, well, Megan has a corgi with 42,000 followers. So maybe we should talk to her. And so that's been a really cool experience. I've helped them out. I think it's 2018 I started helping them, and I've done it, to date. And it's been a really cool experience and a nice way to be creative and, to draw an audience, see the audience grow. And I've also used that, then as an equine specialist, because I really helped my customers work with their social media presence. And, there's so many incorrect things on the internet, and that's the first place people go. So I thought, hey, if these veterinarians can be on social media and this is where their clients or other people's clients for that matter are going to go to get information, you might as well be there sharing correct information so that we're all in a better place.
You mean there's fake news on the internet?
I know it's crazy, but
It,
some of it's fake.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Learn something
Okay.
new every day.
Right.
Dr. Google is not always right.
That's right. Dr. Google is not the expert. And so let's talk then, Megan. You're a lover of corgis, you're a lover of ponies, right? You are a lover of social media and all that it can do for our industry. You are now the director of sales for the US equine business of Beamer Group. So let's talk about that. You are almost 2 years, a year and a half, almost 2 years, I believe, into that role. And so that's a new brand for many of our listeners, for a lot of our industry. So I want to know all the things about Beamer Group because I think our listeners want to know all about Beamer Group.
Yeah, I really wish that I knew about Beamer when I was a technician, for example, because it would have given me, a little bit more income, which would have made my life financially easier at that time, which could have, prolonged my veterinary technician career. So the nice thing about Beamer is a PEMF device, which is pulsed electromagnetic field. They have a horse unit and they have a human unit. What sets their horse unit apart from some other PEMF devices is that it's completely hands-free. So, the ease of convenience is huge with Beamer. Horse people, they don't have 10, 15, 20 minutes to waste. So we need to be efficient and we need to, get the right thing for our horse, but we also need to get things done too. So, that's my favorite part about Beamer is that you can, put the blanket on and set it for as little as 5 minutes, and your horse is getting a nice treatment and you can get your tack ready to ride and you're not really, wasting any time. And it's the nice thing about Beamer too is that they're all independent distributors. So they're 1099s, which gives you the ability to be a part-time Beamer distributor or a full-time Beamer distributor, which, they make a very nice commission on selling a unit. And that's allowed a lot of people in the company to be able to, do things with their career that they want to do because they have, that extra income from Beamer.
Yeah, so super fascinating and a couple of questions, especially in this gig economy as we continue to move forward, that's not going away. right? And so our Gen Z listeners, especially, and the alphas that are coming, we expect to see more and more of, I'm going to do some of this and I'm going to do some of this. And yes, I want to be a technician or I want to ride my horses, but I believe in this therapy. So that's something that I can do and make a side income on. And so I love that concept, Megan, but take us back and tell us why. Why would I use this product? So just explain the acronym again and tell us where we're using this therapy as horse owners, what's it for, and why.
So PMF is pulse electromagnetic field, and that works on the blood vessels. So specifically, Beamer targets the micro blood vessels, so microcirculation. And it obviously we need blood flow. Blood flow is the whole center of our being. If we don't have adequate blood flow, then we have areas of resistance in the body, which can build up and lead to diseases and cancers and so on and so forth. So, it's really important to get the blood flowing freely and correctly in your body. Now, this also helps with recovery. It helps with muscle stimulation. It helps with healing. So obviously, to get blood flow to an area is key for healing. And, a lot of our athletes on the human side are using it for recovery for themselves. A lot of our equine athletes are using it for recovery and performance. And, if you're a little sore after a workout or your horse is sore after a ride, put the Beamer on, you're getting the blood flow, you're taking away, the soreness so that tomorrow you feel great and you can still perform at your best with using the Beamer. So
that's awesome. And so tell us a little bit about your role then and the company. So what do you want people to know about Beamer and what is your role?
So Beamer is an FDA Class 2 cleared medical device on the human side. We don't have any classifications on the equine side, but on the human side, it's the only one in its class that's FDA cleared. So that's exciting because it actually truly is a medical device, which, I don't think a lot of people appreciate. They think, it's just this thing you use to help you feel better, but it's truly a medical device and it has, changed people and horses' lives. So my role coming on was to help develop the equine side of the business. And a lot of these people, like I said, they're independent distributors, so they've never had any sales experience. This is their first opportunity, and they just bought this product because they liked it and they realized they could make money. So it's really helping them develop their skills, doing all of the, like I said, the business things that I never thought of when I was a technician. So it's really cool to be able to use probably my weakest skill as, pretty much the center of my focus every day and help develop, these distributors to be the best Beamer reps they could be.
And I can't imagine that's business is not growing. And so every day you're meeting with and talking with people all over the country because you are specifically United States. Is that correct?
US and Canada.
Okay, US and Canada. So you're North America.
Yep.
And Beamer itself, are you international beyond North America?
Yeah, so Beamer is global, and I do work closely with the reps in Germany. Our headquarters is in Germany, so the representative on the German side of the equine business, we work together.
So I'll go back to your college self. Would you have ever imagined a role like this?
Nope.
And so for our young people, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Like medical devices isn't a conversation that we're having in a college classroom. Your ability to sell, to market, whether full-time, part-time, career, anything, these aren't the kinds of jobs we're talking about, but they're out here. And the more exposure that we get to the folks that are actually in the industry and outside the classroom, I think the better off we are in really understanding what skills, what classes we want to take if we're going to college at all, right? Like maybe we're not going to go to college, maybe we are going to go to college. What do we need to do and who do we need to know in order to pursue opportunities that interest us? And so I think that's just a classic example of you have moved through a more traditional pharmaceutical sales role and now a very non-traditional, fairly new opportunity in equine that is quite closely tied to human health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's why I said, A, I would have never known this had existed. And B, if I wasn't open-minded, I also wouldn't have been here. So I think that that's important to explore the opportunities and, keep an open mind, because you never know where your career will lead you. And, this is pretty great. So it's exciting that it's led me here.
Yeah. And that's one of your top two pieces of advice. I know you shared that. And as soon as I heard you say it, I'm like, I know, like I was waiting for that to come. Be open-minded and explore opportunities that excite your soul, was your exact words. And so we are moving through, you and I have had these conversations before. We're moving through a time where we have this expectation in the past that we would stay with the same company for a very long period of time. And we are really kind of moving through that, where if this is something that serves us, great. Listeners have heard me say it before. I've had at least 4 dream jobs. And so when you are pursuing your own passions, tell us a little bit more about your advice to explore opportunities that excite your soul.
Yeah, and that goes back to finding what's important to you. So, I knew horses and veterinary medicine were 2 things that I know I needed in my career. And with Beamer, it's lacking a little bit of the veterinary medicine, but that's also why I was hired, because they want to develop that market. It's just the way of approaching it the right way, because as you either make the right impact on the veterinary industry or you make the wrong one. And if you make the wrong one, there's no coming back from it. So, you have to be really careful, especially with a product like Beamer that, we have studies, not enough in my opinion, but that's just because the market's new. PMF has been around for forever, but getting into the market and getting more people aware of what it does for your body is a newer concept. But, as people start to take more control of their health, they're learning more about this product. So, with that, more studies will come, and with that will become more opportunities within the medical and the veterinary industry. So, that's the part that's lacking, but that's also the nice thing about my position is I get to develop that. So, I get to combine all of the things I want to do into this one role, which is what was the most exciting thing to me when taking on this role. So I think it's really just, find the things that are most important to you, because everybody has a different definition for success. We all need to make money because we need to eat and we need to live, but there are things that make you successful. And for some people, it's waking up every day and being happy. And that's fine. Whatever makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day is something that's worth exploring, in my opinion.
Yeah, without a doubt. So what is the answer to that question for you, Megan, is what excites your soul? How do you define success for
So
you?
my success is honestly being happy. I want to wake up and start the day knowing that I'm going to be excited in what I'm doing, and that when I end the day, I feel like I've made a difference. So, I always want to make a difference, whether it's in the lives of people or in horses, because I think, it's nice to see people succeed, and it's nice to see horses succeed. And if I can, play a role in that, or a veterinarian, it's, that's what makes me happy, and that's what makes me feel successful. I've never been driven by money. I just needed to live, like I said.
Right. Yeah.
And afford
Well,
my horses so they can live.
exactly. I was going to say the same thing, because so many of us horse crazy girls, or crazy horse girls, whichever way you want to say it, that's just it. Like, we don't pursue these careers because we're trying to be millionaires. We would need to go do something different if that was the case, right? So we do, I think, and again, it comes back to the Jodi Speaks Life brand. We want to live inspired, fulfilled, and empowered, right? We want to be inspired by one another and the horses that, make up this industry, and we want to be fulfilled with what we're doing and how we're contributing, and feel empowered to keep growing and learning and doing these kinds of things. So I knew I'd get a good answer from you on that. So I had to ask that question. So if our listeners, Megan, want to learn more about Beamer Group and what you're doing and what you're offering, where do they go?
So you can check out our social media, obviously, Beamer Group. There's Beamer Horset, there's Beamer Horset USA. Like I said, it's a global brand. So, there are a lot of opportunities, even if you don't live in the United States, to join Beamer. So it's a really cool opportunity. And I think it's nice for even, the trainers out there. It's nice to have another product in your arsenal and something to offer that sets you apart from the competition. So I would highly encourage everybody to check out Beamer.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we link that in the show notes and all of those things today as well. Now, I've been asking all of our guests the same two questions. So I have two questions for you. The first one is, do you have, Megan, a book or a podcast that you would recommend to our listeners? And if so, why?
Yes. So I love the Equine Businesswomen podcast and EQ B2B. It is great. It gives a lot, and it would be a great play off of, the Jodi Speaks Life and Thriving Equine Professional, because it talks a lot about, the equine industry and, the opportunities that are out there, and just a well-rounded space for upcoming and specifically women in the equine industry.
Love it. Love that one.
Aside from yours, because every Thursday is my routine.
Every Thursday, it's Thriving Thursday, yeah. Right? Right. Okay. No, I love to share that space, and I love that podcast. And I have to say, I haven't listened in a bit, so I need to go back and see where I need to catch up on. So that's a good reminder to me. All right. Question number 2. What is one piece of advice? I was ready to ask this one of you because you are a pretty darn new mommy. Megan, so this little gem of yours is less than a year old. So you are a wife, you are a mom, you are a director of sales. I've already said you love corgis and you love ponies. You have all these roles in life. You are a truly thriving equine professional. What is one piece of advice that you would give to our listeners related to life balance in the face of today's hustle culture?
Yeah, I used to be the person that never took vacation because I thought I needed to be there all of the time, and that made me the best employee. And I realized that if you're not the best person you can be, then you're not going to be the best employee you can be. And that means, taking a break and stepping away. And I will give you, 150% from, the start of my day till the end of my day. But then when the day is over, the day's over, which was something that was hard for me at first because I wanted to be there and I always wanted to help. So, that was something that I had to set boundaries with myself, that no, listen, you've done enough. Now you get to be, the wife, the mother, the horse mom, all of those things. And I can't do both. So that would be my piece of advice is, don't burn yourself out too early like I did. And don't take so long to get here. And it's totally fine to, give it your all during your working hours. And it's also fine to, give it your all to yourself on your non-working hours.
Yes. I think that we're coming around. I do. And the more we have the conversation, the better off we will be, all of us, multi-generationally speaking, that we are out here cheering and championing one another to be our very best selves. And for some people, that is, I had a conversation with someone just yesterday, that between the hours of 4:30 and 8:30, she's simply not available. When she is in town and not traveling, she's picking her child up. And when he goes to bed at 8:30, if there is something urgent that she needs to address, she can do that. Otherwise, it needs to wait until tomorrow, and then, for some of us, like for me, it's like, okay, my Sundays are very sacred to me. So don't dare ask for much out of me on a Sunday. And anymore, I don't touch technology on the weekends. I try to completely be off. So I think just those rules and giving ourselves the ability to make our own rules. What is right for Megan? What is right for Jodi? What is right for you at this stage of your life? And it's going to change, right? So the rules that we set today about what stage of life we're in and where we want to be going and do it, what we're doing in our career versus, these other roles in our lives, it's all about life balance. So I just love that, you share that lesson that you learned, because there's a societal pressure on traditional definitions of work ethic. Is how I'll say it, right? And so just because you are not at a desk from 8 to 5 working a traditional job per se, doesn't mean you don't have work ethic.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm also happy, to play back to the veterinary industry, that I'm starting to see equine veterinarians specifically do the same, because, I think that that's been a struggle in the industry. And it's nice to see that the veterinarians are taking some time for themselves, and, they're the best veterinarian they can be, but they also need to take a break. So I agree. I think, it's changing, and it's for a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan, what else would you say to your college self or high school self even? What else, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I think if I could go back and tell myself I may not have the life I imagined from when I was 5 years old and decided I wanted to be a veterinarian, but it turned out pretty great as it is. And it started with horses and it's still horses. So if that's what makes you happy, then just work for it. And there's a lot more opportunities out there that I wish I knew about. So I'm excited for young people to learn this earlier on in their careers than I did.
Yeah. Awesome advice. And I'll, once a horse crazy girl, always a crazy horse girl.
Yeah.
That, that's how I'll end that.
Yeah.
So, Megan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your journey today. I know that it's just so important for our listeners to hear and to learn and to know what's out here. And you can be found on LinkedIn. That's always where I start. You and I are connected on LinkedIn, so you're easy to find on LinkedIn under Megan in parentheses Lap, last name Smith, and it would be a mutual connection with me. So people can find you there. And then, as we said, Beamer Group USA, and we will link to those as we post this episode.
Well, thank you, Jodi. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you, Megan. And Thrivers, have an amazing day, and we will see you back here same time next week. Cheers.